Well, hello there, folks. Today we're going to make this drawing of this Lifesaver candy. What you can see in front of us here is a multi-view drawing, technical drawing of the Lifesaver candy that we created. In this drawing, we have front view, top view, a right side section view, and a detail view, as well as our isometric view. All of these views will help us understand what our project is. I'm going to show you how to create this using Onshape drawings. First, let's take a look at the candy we created. Here you can see the model, and I have the section view turned on so we can see the inside. In order to create this, we created a sketch of the profile of what the broken or cut apart candy would look like. And then we use the revolve tool to revolve that around a center axis. So we want to create a drawing that illustrates that so that someone else could follow the process and make this happen. First thing we're going to do on our blank sheet, we're going to insert the front view of our Lifesaver. So we're going to navigate down to our lesson, and we're going to get our part and bring it in. Now, because we originally brought our candy in, or we originally created our candy on the front plane, the front view of this object will be in the orientation associated with the view the plane we started with. So front right now is showing us the candy in the perspective of the sketch that we originally drew. And that doesn't quite look right. So we're going to switch over to the right view, or the right side plane, so that we can see the object in its full round orientation. I've switched to 2:1 scale because the product is pretty small. The Lifesaver candies are only 1 inch across, and we want to fill this paper a little bit better, so we don't have to zoom in so much. We'll place the front view right there. And you can see that right off the bat, Onshape kicks us from the insert view option to the projected view option. You can see that our front view is already selected. And now we just have to move our mouse into the position we want for the next view that we want. I'm going to go ahead and put in a couple of views. To add a second view, I just go back to the original view that I brought in, the front view, select it, and move the mouse into various positions that I want. You can see right now that many of these views are duplicates. The only original or unique views here are this front view where you see the full round, the pictorial view, the isometric view, and then we have 3 essentially duplicated views, because since the Lifesaver is round, it doesn't matter whether we're looking at it from the top, the left, the right, or the bottom. They'll all look exactly the same. So I'm going to escape out of my tool by deselecting it from the tool ribbon and delete views that I don't want. So there's no point in having those. I do want to add shading to my pictorial view. So I'm going to hover over the view until I see the brown highlight rectangle pop up around it. Right click, select Show Hide, and choose Shaded View. Next thing I'm going to do is add something useful, because right now we're missing the details that allowed us to actually draw this thing in the first place. So we're going to go up and use what's called a section view. I'm going to take the section view option from the menu, which you may need to use the drop-down menu underneath your insert view to find this. So if your screen isn't as wide as mine, this set of tools will be in a drop-down menu like these dimension tools are. They'll just be underneath either the insert view or the projected view menu. We're going to choose section view now. We're going to slice the object vertically like it was in our parts where I'd shown you, I had it set up in our parts to just show you. So we're going to slice it like that. To do that in the drawing, we take the vertical option from our menu. We can change the label if we want, but I'm going to leave it at A. We're going to identify where we want to put the cutting plane. Of course, if we want to slice it in half, we put the cutting plane at the center. We can move our mouse left or right to place the view. I'm going to move mine to the right because I think that looks best. And you can see now cutting plane A has been created and section AA is there to match. What you can see is this is what the object would look like if the area to the right of the cutting plane were removed and you were standing to the right side looking back at the object. This looks pretty good, but we're dealing with pretty small things and we want to get some more detail, make it easier to see and dimension. So just like we have projected views, auxiliary views, section views, we're going to add yet another type of view called a detail view. Detail views are ways to zoom in on an object and get a closer look. So we're going to take the detail view menu. Again, you might have to select that from the drop-down menu underneath your previous views. We have options for views to choose. I'm going to choose the circle option. I'm going to let the computer select the view scale automatically. If I have a view scale in mind, I can type it in now. As far as the label goes, B will be fine. We could choose a different label if we like, just by typing it in here. To create the view, we're going to place our mouse at the center of where we want our view to be focused. Select by left-clicking and move the mouse out to include all the things that we want to include in our detail view. Once you click on the edge of the circle, your detail view will be formed, and you just move it to place it where you want. Now that I have my detail view in place, I'm ready to start adding my dimensions, center lines, and any other details that I want to my sketch to make it look professional. I'm going to add a center line to the full round of the circle because after all, circles should be centered, should have center lines. And we're going to mark off center lines for all of our cylindrical components. There's the center of the lifesaver in that orientation. There's the center there. And there's the center there. The edge-to-edge center line allows us to create a center line for cylindrical features. When I look at my top view, though, you can see that my center line didn't extend past the object. And that would be a little confusing because we don't want people to think that the line we just drew is part of the object rather than an axis that the object is revolved around. So we're going to extend that out past a little bit. It definitely makes it look a little more clear. We'll do that. And now it's just time to add our dimensions. We're going to use the dimension tool as we did in the drawing. I'm sorry, as we did in our sketch. Add details that we want. We can adjust our precision by clicking on the little box that pops up next to our dimension and using the drop-down menu to select the amount of precision we want. I'd like to add leading zeros. I always like to add leading zeros for decimals. We can select there and place it in place. For this particular model, there were 4 dimensions that were required in order to design the object. So I'm going to make sure I have all 4 of those dimensions placed. And now the drawing is done. Hope that was helpful. Good luck. Have fun. As always, keep it awesome.